It's time now for The Drive on ESPN Blacksburg, AM 1430, 810, FM 94.1, and live on the web at ESPNBlacksburg.com.
It's The Drive on ESPN Blacksburg, and a good Wednesday evening to all of you. For most of you, probably your Friday.
True.
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you, and I haven't said it yet to you, but happy Thanksgiving to you, Brian.
Well, happy Thanksgiving to you, too. Thank you.
And, Jason Stamm is joining us right now from the VT Zone, and Jason has actually been waking up every 3 hours for the last week, feeding his Thanksgiving turkey. He's practicing. He's got something bigger going on in life, but he's using that Thanksgiving turkey as kind of like a testing ground for him. How you doing, man? Are you overly tired because of this?
I'm hanging in there, Paul.
Okay.
It hadn't got to me yet, but, ask me that here in a couple of days, I guess.
Well, and for those that don't know, Jason and the missus are actually expecting a little bundle of joy. Your first, right, that you know of? Yes,
it is our first. There are no other illegitimate children out there anywhere.
Oh, okay. All right, good. That made me a little nervous, but okay, all right. I kind of said that, and I'm like, oh, man, whatever. No, okay, anyway. So how long before you guys are with child?
Well, we're due on Monday, so anybody who's been through this before, when you get to this point, you're just on baby watch. So, like I've been telling everybody, he's calling the shots, so it's kind of a wait and see, and we're waiting him out. So whenever he gets here, we're ready.
So if this happens at noon on Saturday, are you gonna make him wait? Or are you gonna be like, no, you got to hold off?
I don't know. I don't know if he would. He really appreciates the Commonwealth Cup, so I don't know if he'll have the same. It'd be at least hold off on all this stuff. I think whenever he's ready, he's just going to come.
He doesn't appreciate it yet, is what you mean.
Yeah,
he doesn't appreciate it yet. Yeah, exactly. So Virginia Tech had an interesting visitor. I believe it was last weekend. Hokies Deion Jackson came to visit. And he's been committed to Duke for a while.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, Paul. He was one of those that, I've gotten to know all these kids through camps and going to their games, and I've talked to him so many times on the phone. He knew who I was out there, and, staying out there taking pictures at Lane Stadium. This was the Georgia Tech game.
Right.
Went out of his way to avoid me a little bit, so I know he didn't want it out there. He was going to Duke, or he was visiting Virginia Tech. Like he said, He's been committed to Duke since July. There's been a few other schools that have kept in touch with him.
Mm-hmm.
Missouri, Louisville, North Carolina. He says he's not visiting anywhere else. But I think that was kind of a surprise by at least a lot of us that he did end up visiting Virginia Tech for the Georgia Tech game. So, again, he says he's 100%. Again, if he was 100%, he wouldn't have visited to begin with. So I think he's more about 85%, 80%. But at this point, it sounds like he's going to stick with Duke. But he was at least kind of leaving the door open a little bit by visiting Virginia Tech there.
Sure. Now, is he a kid that would fit into the system that Justin Fuente has? Because I feel like from what we're seeing so far is, and it's unfortunate for these guys because there are some players that have got some real skill, but I feel like the kids like Trayvon McMillan and Marshawn Williams, who obviously had the knee injury this past week, but I feel like maybe they don't necessarily fit into Justin's system. Would he be a kid that fits into the system?
I mean, I think he would, and we're not going to know unless he got in the system.
Right,
but I think he would. They need a running back. That's been something that they've been looking at for quite a while now. We've talked about Jalen Holston for, what's it been, Paul, 5-6 months?
Yeah.
This guy's been on the radar for a while. So, Deion Jackson is just another option because you can't put all your eggs in one basket with Holston. That's the guy they want. But if he doesn't work out, you need to have something else. So they're looking around. Rasheed Martin, another running back, also visited last weekend. So if one of those guys were to commit, I think that would probably get him settled at running back for the 2017 class. But, again, with Jackson, I think they had to feel good that they got him up to visit at least that much. And you never know. There's always a little bit of time here they could try to flip him. But he is visiting Duke on December 10th, the 9th, 10th that weekend. So, that could be what finally seals him with there. But, hey, you did get him on a visit, and I think it shows that, again, he wasn't 100% committed or he wouldn't have visited Virginia Tech.
Obviously, a need at running back, especially with the questions that surround now the health of Marshawn Williams. Marshawn ended up messing up his knee again. Did you ever find out which knee? Is it the same one? Is it the other one now?
It is the same knee, is what I've been told.
Okay.
As far as what type of injury, we're not really sure about that. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's enough to end his season. I mean, he's torn his ACL in that knee twice.
Right.
Not sure if it's another one of those. I mean, you've got a few ligaments in there. And, of course, at this point in the season, if this was early in the season, we could try to kind of deduce what it is. PCL is something you could usually bounce back from after a few weeks. You just kind of have to stay off of it a little bit, and you can play with it. I played with a torn PCL, but ACL, MCL, I mean, those are both very extensive injuries, as Marshawn well knows.
Right.
This season he finally got back after missing, a year and a half, so over a year and a half. So, I'm not sure, but it's definitely not good. And with his history of knee injuries, you have to kind of wonder, could this be the end of his career, or at least his college career? It's really unfortunate because I think he was kind of, there were flashes in there. He definitely has not looked like himself from 2 years ago when he had that really strong start. He started 8 games till he tore his ACL the first time in North Carolina. So he was finally starting to get back. I feel like he was finally getting a little bit comfortable, and then to have a setback like this, it's pretty disappointing, I think, all around.
Well, I think for those of us that have had a chance to talk to Marshawn, and I've talked to him just very briefly, I get the feeling that this kid's a warrior. He's a fighter. I don't think that this is going to keep him down as long as Coach Fuente and the rest of the staff are willing to give him that time that is necessary to get this thing healed up. I don't think we've seen the last of Marshawn Williams in a Virginia Tech uniform.
Well, he's got 2 years of eligibility left, so I guess never say never. He could always come back, but all that work done on one knee, that's a lot of stuff done. I mean, it's tough enough to come back one time, then 2 times now, depending on the severity of this knee injury. You'd be talking about a third comeback on the same knee. That's a lot of pressure, and you already got to think long. At this point, Paul, it's one of those things. It's more looking long term. What kind of long term effects is this going to have on his knee? Because we don't want him to. Nobody wants him to not be able to walk here in 10 years because of all the abuse and wear and tear that knee went through. So you got to look long term. Is it healthy for him to kind of try to come back? So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see, once we start spring practice, if he's able to come out. And, obviously we're hoping to find out some more here much sooner than that. But at this point right now, it's still kind of undetermined as far as the severity of that knee injury.
Twitter is going crazy because Devin Hunter announced that he will make his announcement on, is it Christmas Eve that he's going to make the announcement?
Yep, Christmas Eve. So somebody's going to get a very, very big Christmas present.
Yes, they are. And I've noticed that, of course, Hokie Nation, I've seen quite a few tweets from people asking for Devin Hunter for Christmas. And I got to wonder if this is something. Do you think that plays a factor at all in when these kids are making decisions, especially these kids that are, number 1 safety in the nation, number 5 overall, where schools are like, hey, we love you, but yet the fan base is so rabid, and they're coming out saying, we want you. You got to come here. You got to play at Virginia Tech. Does that play a factor in these kids' decisions?
Yeah, I think it has some effect. I know even, for example, I was watching the Kentucky basketball game today, and they did a segment about, the 6 freshmen they had coming and how big of an effect social media had on their decisions. And,
sure.
It does play into it. Some guys more than others. You hope it's not a determining factor. I mean, there's a lot more stuff that goes into it besides what people are saying behind, usernames on Twitter. So, but I think it does play a part. Guys really notice whenever they start getting a lot of love on Twitter, and coaches are constantly messaging them, and they're sending out different gifts or whatever they've had made for them. So it does. I think they do notice it, and I think you hope maybe it opens their eyes to kind of everything else that goes with it. But for some guys, I think it does play a pretty big factor in at least who you're interested in and you want to find out more about. Or I don't know if it's a determining factor, like I said, but I think it does play play a role into it for sure.
You and I have talked about Devin quite a bit on here because obviously, I mean, the stature of this particular recruit is huge. You guys have him listed as high on Virginia Tech, but also there's the medium of Alabama, Auburn, Florida, and North Carolina. I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but you and I have talked about how it's kind of really a two-horse race. It's Virginia Tech, North Carolina, because he does want to stay somewhat close to home, and he's a Chesapeake, Virginia kid. Is it still kind of that two-horse race for Devin Hunter?
Well, no, it's been more Virginia Tech, Florida, because of that Torian Gray connection.
Okay.
So North Carolina's been in there, but the Torian Gray connection is kind of what held him in. Of course, Devin will be taking his official visit this weekend to Alabama for the Iron Bowl. So, it'll be interesting to see what he has to say about them after. I mean, obviously that's a huge game nationally, and when you're number one team in the country, you're definitely going to have some big playoff implications involved. But yeah, I mean, all signs still point to Virginia Tech. They've been the leader for, I would say, at least about 3 months. Usually, right around when he unveiled the uniforms from the Bristol game, it was right around then that you kind of thought, wow, Virginia Tech's really sitting in a good position right now. So, again, he's going to take, a couple official visits. He is going to be at Virginia Tech on the December 9th, which is the last visit weekend anybody can take before the dead period. And then, he's going to have a couple weeks. I think by that point he's going to probably already know. He's not going to be right up to December 24th. That's just when he wants to unveil it.
Right.
But I think he'll probably have an idea where he's going, if he doesn't already, here in the next couple weeks.
Is it a good indication? You and I have talked about this before. Last visit is the best visit. Is the fact that he's waiting until that last possible weekend to come to Virginia Tech, that's a good sign for Hokie Nation, isn't it?
I think in this case it's a very good sign. Honestly, I think regardless they had to feel pretty good about where they were with this. But part of it too is they're looking at right now, unless there's some debacle on Saturday, Virginia Tech is likely going to be playing in the ACC championship game next weekend.
Yeah.
So you got to cross out that weekend. They're not available. I know he wanted to get to Alabama, so the Iron Bowl obviously had plenty of appeal. He wanted to go see that. Pretty big atmosphere and good chance to see what they're all about. And then we talked about the dead period. So pretty much it was almost by default, too, that the only really true weekend he could visit was that December 9th weekend. Because, as we talked about before, they've had some official visitors throughout the season, as everybody does. But I think the guys they're really, really wanting, they've been pushing very hard for them to visit in the off season because they want the coaches to be able to spend more one-on-one time with these guys and really, really sell the family, aspect of it. And not that they don't on game weekends, but there's plenty of game prep, everything involved with the normal game week, and they can't spend as much time with them as they could in the off season. So especially for guys who are making their decision like Devin before the end of the year, this is kind of the weekend they're looking at.
Any news on the basketball front? I know it's been pretty quiet there, and I think it probably will be for at least the next little while for Virginia Tech.
Yeah, it has been. I mean, they signed their two big gets for the 2017 class with the fall signing period with Wabissa Beatty and Nickel Alexander-Walker, and those two as a combo, those guys are probably two of the better backcourts you're going to find in the country for their class.
Yeah.
Basically what it comes down to now is they've got to find at least one post player, if not two. So, you're looking at, again, there's just not a lot out there. So we mentioned Donnie Tillman. He still is looking like the top target right now, probably their best chance at getting a post player, about 6'7", originally from Detroit. He's out at Finley Prep in Nevada, out in Vegas right now. Looks like, he hasn't, it's not like a set visit, but he's talked about his team is playing at a tournament, just a holiday tournament in Texas this weekend. So I know he talked about probably visiting TCU while they were down there. They're playing in Duncanville, which is right outside of Dallas. So pretty close to TCU. I think he and his mom are going to try to get over there for some time that they could manage this weekend.
Right.
TCU seems to be one that has really resonated with him. I think the only other school he's visited is Utah. But you've got Cal, you've got USC, a few others out west that are still kind of hanging in. That's going to be the thing, is getting him to Virginia Tech. He's still yet to visit. I know Christian Webster, the assistant coach, flew out there. They went to see him during the open period they could. But that's going to be the challenge now, is getting him to come for a visit for probably one of the game days, I would imagine, and after the first of the year. You know, he can't sign anywhere until April, so you've got some time, but you still would like to get him committed and wrapped up.
Sure.
And, again, unlike football, basketball kids usually stick with those commitments. It doesn't always happen, and Chris Clark is a perfect example of how that doesn't always happen. But way more often than not, those guys will stick with their commitments. Jason
Stamm is joining us. You can find out lots of stuff from his website, the VT Zone. Of course, he's also with Scouts.com. And I know you've got the great deal going on right now. And, hey, we're getting close to Christmas time, so why not get that Virginia Tech fan in your life, not only a subscription to the VT Zone, but also Sports Illustrated. Am I right?
Well, that's what I'm thinking, Paul. And then, you can always, there's 10% off of tickets and all our gear, merchandise, and our fan shop. For all of our subscribers. So, this is another one of those things that take advantage of our stuff. I mean, it really will end up paying for itself. It'll save you a lot of money, I think, in the end. And especially this time of year when we're all spending, plenty of it on gifts and, traveling and everything else. I mean, I think it really comes in handy to be able to give that gift to yourself, Sports Illustrated, and save, $40 for a subscription, or give it to somebody else.
Has anybody moved the needle any farther forward on the Jason Stamm T-shirts in the fan store?
I haven't heard word on that yet, Paul, but I was kind of counting on you to push that through.
I'm working on it.
You have to give me some updates.
I'm working on it. You laugh at me. I'm working on it. Jason Stamm, as always, man, thank you so much. You have a very happy Thanksgiving, and I'm sure I will talk to you next week. At least I'm hoping I will, unless, of course, Mrs. Stamm is in with the new baby. But if that happens, we will adapt and have a great Thanksgiving, man.
Guys, I hope you guys both have a good Thanksgiving as well.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks for everything you do. We appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Take care.